2023 will be a special year for some veterans, as it will mark the 80th anniversary of the Allied landings in Sicily during the Second World War, which was a significant turning point for British, American, and Canadian allies in the European theater. The operation, which was named Operation Husky, intended to serve several objectives. It sought to secure lines of communication through the Mediterranean Sea, put pressure on anti-fascist Italians to bring about a reversal of alliances, and to draw away German divisions from the Russian front. 1st Canadian Infantry Division was supported by 2nd Field Regiment, Royal Canadian Artillery, in which 56 Field Zone 10 Battery was a sub-unit of. For this reason, a series of ceremonial and training events are scheduled to mark the unit's contributions to that important operation this year. Here are 5 interesting facts about 56 Field Regiment and Operation Husky. 1. The guns of 2nd Field Regiment were those first ashore in the division on 10 July, with 8th Battery reporting in action at 2000 hours, and 10 Battery shortly thereafter. It was not long after that foraging gunners had replaced tin rations with fresh vegetables, chickens, and pigs, and of course, vino. It was not uncommon during a battle for contents to be cooking under a concealed fire, but the practice of doing so over a charge bag was discarded due to the unsavory taste. First rounds in anger were not fired until 13 July at Ragusa. Sadly, it was a gunner from Brantford, Gunner Harold Schultz, mentioned as the first RCHA casualty of the Italian campaign. This quote from the unit diary explains, "Reconnaissance parties went ashore on 10 July, and Gunner Harold Schultz, attached to the headquarters of RCA that day, was the first of the unit killed in Sicily when enemy aircraft strafed the headquarters." 2. A significant early transition in types of action for the Canadian artillery and the division as a whole occurred during the battles of Valguanera and Asoro. No longer was the division in pursuit of an enemy withdrawing on its heels, but against an enemy held up and stubbornly defending high ground. Here, the Canadian Divisional Artillery would display how it would shift a battle's favor into the advance of the attackers. Under the Canadian Divisional Commander, then Major General Guy Simmons, and Commander of the Canadian Divisional Artillery, Brigadier Bruce Matthews, the Canadian Divisional Fireplane would involve all but one regiment, with 68 rounds per gun, a total of 5,984 shells, and the first concentrated divisional fireplane for the Canadians since the First World War. The attack was successful, ejected the German defenders, and enabled 2 Canadian Infantry Brigade to seize an important road juncture at Valguanera. Unfortunately, this would also result in the first casualty for a 10 Battery gunner, Gunner Stanley Russell Coburn of St. Catharines, Ontario. Near the regimental area, approximately 200 yards from the 10 Battery's position, a huge enemy ammunition dump, believed to have been booby-trapped by a timed fuse, exploded, sending masses of shrapnel and flame, mud and smoke hundreds of feet into the air. The concussion was felt 1,000 yards away and injured 4, including 1 dead, which was Gunner Coburn. Number 3. 1943. It was a different time. And then Brigadier General Chris Vokes was a different kind of brigade commander. Non-combat related sicknesses like malaria, heat stroke, dysentery all concerned the general, but according to his autobiography, none so much as venereal disease. As his brigade marched through Sicily, the statistic of VD cases grew and kept many fighting soldiers from battle. Vokes writes, "Soldiers on campaign live in the constant shadow of death, and some then adopt a philosophy of never missing an opportunity to copulate. Their reason? It might be their last. There was always willing women. Soldiers with the highest moral upbringing sometimes succumb." End quote. To curb this threat to his brigade's fighting effectiveness, the outside-the-box thinker in Vokes approached Divisional Commander Guy Simmons about his intention to open a brothel, so long as he had permission. Simmons would not give permission, but mused it might be a worthy experiment. Well, for Vokes, that was good enough. He ordered one of his staff officers to solicit and interview, shall we say, willing providers, and requisition a large house outside a village where prophylactics would be provided. He tasked a medical officer that would be in charge of ensuring the sanitary nature of the location and services and inspecting soldiers prior and after. According to Vokes' biography, Initially, both the staff officer and the director of medical services protested, but over time came to become enthusiastic about the wisdom of the task to reduce non-combat related casualties. In essence, the general had tasked, well, a madam and a pimp. But a registered brothel does not stay a secret for long, and when word of the venture reached the ears of the brigade padre, it was not long until Vokes was greeted with a written message from the 8th Army Command in his headquarters. There will be no brothels, period, of any kind, opened anywhere in the 8th Army area. This was the day before the grand opening of the brigade brothel, and Canada was spared the explanation of a house of ill fame. Number 4. If you were to tour the cemetery at Agira in search of gunners that fell in Sicily from the Brantford area, you would be unlikely to find any indication of those with ties to 56 Field. But you might stumble upon Lieutenant Charles Horatio Waterhouse of the 1st Anti-Tank Regiment. On first examination, this might not seem to have any ties to 56 itself, but that is where a little digging unveils some very cool, if not spooky, coincidences. And can we just observe that it is interesting of itself that he had a heroic military name, Horatio, the anglicized spelling of Horatius, as in Horatius at the Bridge, the Roman military hero. Makes one wonder if there was a previous military history in the family. But back to the lieutenant. It turns out that Lieutenant Waterhouse did fall in action as part of 1st Anti-Tank Regiment in the campaign in Sicily, but he initially enrolled with the 5-4 Battery garrisoned in Brantford, which is the sub-unit garrison of 56 in Brantford today. Following the outbreak of the war, Charles joined the Reserve Battery and later proceeded to an artillery reinforcement unit training at Petawawa. The lieutenant went overseas to England in 1941 and soon after joined the 1st Anti-Tank Regiment Royal Canadian Artillery, with which he served up to the time of his death on July 26, 1943, in a bitter engagement between Nassauria and Agira. Now on to the serendipitous. Lieutenant Waterhouse was the first cousin of the late Richard Norman Waterhouse, the founder of the law firm Waterhouse, Holden, Amy, Hitchin in Brantford. His namesake and great-grandfather, Charles Horatio Waterhouse, was a founder of the famous Waterhouse Engine Works Company in 1874, the original charter for which that company was signed by the Governor-General at the time, Lord Dufferin, who is the very namesake for the unit that perpetuates 56 Field, the Dufferin and Haldeman Rifles. That signed charter by Lord Dufferin hangs in the main hallway of the aforementioned Waterhouse Law Firm's office. Here's where things get very interesting. That law firm, it happens to employ the daughter of one of the unit's long-standing non-commissioned officers. Before all the research for this video had even started, the soldiers selected to lay a marker in Sicily for Lieutenant Waterhouse's honor this summer is that very same non-commissioned officer. Number 5. So 2023 is the 80th anniversary of Operation Husky, where Niagara gunners played a significant role in fire support. It's often thought that when it comes to commemoration of World War II, the Italian campaign often plays poor cousin to other theaters and battles like Dieppe or D-Day in Normandy. But it's important for those who fought and died at this critical turning point in the war, we keep their memories alive. That is why this year, 56 Field, along with travelers from the Royal Canadian Artillery Association, will be sending 20 merited soldiers, NCOs, and officers to Sicily to mark the 80th anniversary of Husky this July. The Advanced Training and Battlefield Tour is solely funded by the attendees or non-public funds and donations. The group will be conducting advanced training exercises without troops, studying the employment of fire support during the campaign, including the impact of the heat and mountainous terrain on reconnaissance, deployment, and combat service support on guns, as well as adjusting fire and fire planning. The group will also attend historic battlefield tours, studying and learning from those battles. In fact, part of the admission tickets for those to attend has involved the contingent attending professional development sessions with notable historians and authors who have written about the Canadian gunners in Sicily and Italy, like Colonel Grebstad, Mark Zuehlke, Dr. Brad St. Croix, and Professor Douglas Delaney. The journey would not be complete without the gunners investing the time to honor those gunners who came before us and paid the ultimate sacrifice to win in those important actions. In addition to wreath-laying ceremonies and Agira, select members will join the RCAA in laying markers for those gunners that fell. The stewardship of our fallen is important to the unit, and what better way to do it than to go to the very spots where our Niagara Region gunners fell to do so. Those fallen to be marked by select current members of 56th Field Regiment are Lieutenant Charles Waterhouse of Brantford, 5-4 Battery and 1st Anti-Tank Regiment; Gunner Harold Schultz of Brantford, 1st Field Regiment; Gunner Stanley Russell Coburn of St. Catharines, 10 Battery, 2nd Field Regiment; Gunner Victor Lamont of Paisley, 10 Battery, 2nd Field Regiment; and Gunner Kenneth Jansen, Ridgeway, 2nd Light Anti-Air Regiment.